Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to today's presentation, Unveiling the Invisible, Exploring Interactions in Child Welfare and Immigration. Before we begin our presentation today, we would like to begin with an acknowledgement that N4 is hosted at CHIO, which is located in Ottawa, Ontario. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. We honor them and this land. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We also honor all First Nations, Inuit, Métis peoples, and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. My name is Colleen Drake. I'm N4's Project Engagement Coordinator, and I will be hosting and moderating today's presentation with my colleague and co-host, Andrew Tomeyer, Education Coordinator, who will be monitoring the Q&A box today. I am now pleased to introduce you to today's presenters, and I'm going to ask Liz and Danielle to turn on their videos as I introduce them. Danielle Angara's professional experience spans 2 decades and includes social work and program management. Within social work, Danielle has worked across various sectors, including healthcare and on board of a mental health agency. Danielle currently co-manages the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence at PLCAS. Danielle's portfolio includes strategies for sector-wide capacity building, communications and data, and research and partnership development. Danielle has been invited to speak about the rights of children and innovation at national and international conferences. She currently sits on a number of multi-year advisory panels, including a research project with the University of Toronto and the University of Victoria, and equity integration for the profession of social work with the Ontario Association of Social Workers. Danielle is an inclusive leader of integrity and thought leader on many system issues, and she believes in furthering social justice outcomes and equity through service excellence and research. Welcome, Danielle. Oh, apologies, there we go. And Liz, welcome. Liz Okaya has over 17 years of professional child welfare experience. Liz is passionate about her work regarding the intersectionality of child welfare immigration and settlement issues. For the past 10 years, Liz has been leading a team of child welfare professionals with specialized knowledge in immigration at PLCAS and has built and strengthened staff capacity over the years. Liz is currently a manager at PLCAS, CWICE, and is responsible for the day-to-day operations and strategic vision for the center. Liz's service philosophy emphasizes collaboration across sectors in support of immigration, refugee, and newcomer families involved in the child welfare system. Liz wears many different hats in her role, including being a coach and mentor, speaking at national conferences, delivering national webinars, and being an advisory member of a research project with the University of Toronto and the University of Victoria. Liz's service and leadership focuses are equity, advocacy, education, and system management. Welcome to you both. I just have a few housekeeping slides to jump through. Today's session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our N4 platform. We will share this with you as soon as it becomes available. Should there be any technical issues during the presentation, we will inform you with details of an alternate makeup date. Before we begin today's event, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our platform. These features will help enhance your participation experience. Throughout today's session, we invite you to write your questions in the Q&A window. We know that sometimes many of you might have the same questions or be interested in a particular response. Today, you have the option of upvoting a question. Please upvote questions you're interested in hearing the answer to, and we will prioritize those questions with our presenters. And with that said, let's jump right into today's presentation, and I will pass the virtual podium over to our presenters to take it away. Thanks so much. Liz, I'm just not hearing
Yes.
sound. There we go.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you for the warm welcome, Colleen. Yes, today's presentation is entitled Unveiling the Invisible, Exploring Intersections of Child Welfare and Immigration. And the outline for today's presentation would be about child welfare in general, and then about the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence. And then we talk about the importance of cross-sector collaboration, and then our impact in data, what the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence has been doing for the last 5 years in numbers. And then we're talking about leading systems change. And we offer you some best practices, and then how to make a referral and stay connected with CWICE. Next, please. So a little bit of the background of child welfare. And because we're in Ontario, from Peel Children's Aid Society in Ontario, we would provide you more specifically information about Ontario. Child welfare in Canada is legislated and delivered provincially. So in Ontario, there are 50 independent child welfare agencies. The Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services in Ontario oversees child welfare in Ontario. And the legislation for child is called the Child and Youth and Family Services Act, also known as the CYFSA. There is a duty to report neglect or abuse for children under the age of 16. As we go on, you will learn that you can, it's up to the age of 18 that we service, but the duty to report piece is up to 16. So the duty to report has been amended to include a duty to report suspicions that a child under the age of 16 may have been or is at risk of child sex trafficking. Okay, in the past, this didn't exist. The duty to report applies to children under 16 years of age. A person may, but is not required to report protection issues to a child welfare agency when the child is over 16. But in Ontario, when a youth 16 or 17 years of age who is referred to a child protection agency may be eligible for a voluntary youth services agreement, also known as a VISA. And what this means is that the youth who is 16 or 17 will have to agree and enter into a contract with the child welfare agency in Ontario to be able to participate in service. And what a VISA does offer is financial support in many cases, and it also provides oversight to assist the youth in meeting their specific goals, such as educational goals, emotional support, housing, employment goals, and especially more especially or importantly is family connections. We would like the youth, whatever happened that they had to leave home, we would like to really work on family connections or reunification. And in Ontario, child welfare agencies can intervene in situations where a child's parent or caregiver is acting protectively, however, has not been successful in reducing the risk of sex trafficking or exploitation. So this can include children up to the age of 17. Next, please. Thank you. So I've just provided you with an overview of child welfare in general. Now we're going to be talking about an overview of the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence. And you will not find this anywhere else. This is a unique service, and we will talk about why it is unique. So established in 2018, the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence is a centralized service and training center that has been recognized nationally for its leadership and innovation. And as you hear as our presentation progresses, although we are in Ontario and we are housed at Peel CAS, that we other provinces tap into our unique services as well. So what makes us first of its kind in Canada is because we promote proactive and responsive service to emerging immigration and settlement trends. There is no service like this in Canada that looks at the intersection of child welfare and immigration. And also, Usually a center of excellence will deal with, will focus on policy, research, high-level advocacy, but the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence prides itself in doing all that, but also we're very focused on service. We're a service-focused entity. We also ensure children and youth have immigration plans and pathways. When children and youth are involved with us, especially when they are in care in any of the 50 agencies in Ontario and beyond now, as you will hear, we've been getting some consultations from across the country. We do want them to have a pathway, especially if they don't have status or their immigration status is precarious. We like to ensure that they do have an immigration plan or pathways. And actually it's become part of Ontario child welfare redesign. And actually there's a legislation or an amendment that needs to be done. You can't have a child in care and then have them leave and not take care of their immigration needs. And we also assist the sector to better understand the impact of immigration settlement issues on children, youth, and families that we serve. Ultimately, there's a great impact on caregivers and even the children and youth if the immigration situation is precarious. There is an impact of accessing resources and post-secondary. There's all kinds of challenges if they don't have their immigration status regularized. And finally, we serve as a knowledge management center to inform and build capacity in the sector and beyond. As our presentation progresses, you will hear about our training that we provide nationally. And so I won't delve too much into that. Next slide, please, Danielle. Okay, so the background of the center. How come we're talking about a unique service, but how did it all start? Why did we get here? So PLCAS had a specialized immigration team since 2000, okay, to 2018 when the Center of Excellence came into being. The reason being is that we had Pearson International Airport in our jurisdiction, and we didn't have a choice, really. Unaccompanied minors and, and children in need were arriving at Pearson, and no one knew what to do with them. And so PLCAS would be called, to provide advice, to do assessments, and to sometimes bring these children into care while we take care of their general needs, including if they made a refugee claim, that we help them to go through the refugee determination process. And so we really had to do this work. We had to build expertise. We had to build capacity to be able to do this work. So we did have a team dedicated to doing this work. And then we always say that we can't do this work alone. This work involves many sectors, different sectors and different organizations. And so partnership development became a part of our work. It's just a daily part of our work. And so we develop partnerships with local, provincial, federal, and even now international partners that we work with. When the Syrian refugees started coming, when there was an influx of Syrian refugees coming, we were selected by our ministry because of the expertise that we had built over the years to help families, our Syrian families settle. And so we were doing, education. We were meeting them right when they arrive in Canada at the reception centers and doing education, parenting in Canada or in Ontario, just making sure that they were okay and they knew where to call if they ran into issues. And we always pride ourselves in saying that as we worked on this project, we did not hear of a Syrian child coming into care. And so that proactive work really paid off. Next, please. So our role in service across Ontario, this is the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence. As I said at the beginning, usually child welfare in Ontario is very jurisdictional. So Toronto will have their own child welfare agency, PLCAS will have Peel region, Hamilton and other places will have. But the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence does provide service across Ontario. We were mandated to do so. And so we operate a centralized consultation center to support child welfare staff when managing complex child protection cases in which immigration, settlement, or border related issues are present. Historically, I've always said child welfare did not turn their mind to immigration issues, although it does impact a lot a caregiver's ability to really meet the needs of their children, and also even children and youth that come alone or get separated from their caregivers do really need support. But child welfare focused on the, maybe abuse or neglect piece and just left the rest. And we cannot do that anymore. So Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence is here and really looking at the intersection, and that's the work that we do. We also coordinate airport and community referrals. As I said, we do have Pearson in our the largest airport in Canada in our jurisdiction, and we do have protocols with CBSA, the Canada Border Services Agency, and other agencies that we do coordinate any airport cases and also community referrals. We also facilitate the immigration and refugee process for children and youth. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have to help them. It's a very complex system, and so we help them to navigate that system as well. We develop partnerships and make referrals and coordinate resources in the community. Like I said, we can never do this work alone, and so our partnerships are very important to us. Thank you. Next, please, Janelle. Yes, so this is the focus of our service work. Unaccompanied and separated children and youth is one area that we work in. And so children arriving either through the airport or who get separated within while they are in Canada and having issues, referrals are made to us, and we do have protocols and partnerships working on that. And then we support citizenship and repatriation of children and youth to Canada. So children, when they are Canadian citizens that may have been caught in difficult situations abroad. During COVID, you may have heard that people were stranded and all over the place, but there are other issues. Children can find themselves in abusive situations when they've been taken abroad. And so we help families, children, and youth to repatriate safely, working with Global Affairs Canada, who are our great partners, and to coordinate pre-arrival and arrival and then post-arrival services for children, youth, and families who repatriate back to Canada. So then we also do assist children, youth, and families with unresolved immigration status in Canada. I mentioned that, a lack of immigration status can impact a child, youth, or family in many, many ways. And so we help them to find a pathway. And of course, we work with partners, legal agencies and settlement agencies and all other people who would be able to help in regularizing a child, youth, or family status while we work with them. And then settlement of newcomers. I talked about the Syrian refugees. We also have our Afghan initiative. We do have the Ukrainian project right now that we're working with. We're working and supporting families with settlement challenges that they have. Next, please. Yes, I said right at the beginning that we do need our partnerships. This work involves different sectors and different organizations, and we do need to work together. So child welfare professionals across Ontario and beyond are really, we work with them closely to sort of navigate some of these issues. When they're working with families, because they don't have the expertise, they reach out to CWICE to provide that assistance. So they consult with the center. And then community organizations, there are all kinds of, whether it's health, whether it's for counseling, or whether, even I would put the school system there, all kinds of community organizations that, will be useful and beneficial to our families. We do build relationships with them because we understand the importance of that relationship building, because it goes to help our clients. And we're all here for the best interest of the child. And then the federal agencies that we mentioned before, CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency, we do have protocols and partnerships with IRCC, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada. We cannot do without them. They fund a lot of our settlement agencies that we work with, and we also work with them directly. And then at the RIB, Immigration Refugee Board, and then GAC Global Affairs Canada. Like I said, they have the international piece, and then we support them in supporting families abroad. Settlement organizations, they are a key part of what we do always. They help us to support our family, children, and youth. And then legal services. And when you talk about immigration status, you cannot take out legal assistance and stuff like that. So we do have organizations and legal clinics that we partner and work with to benefit our families, children, and youth. Thank you. Can you move it up? Okay, so I think I'm done, and I will turn it over to Danielle to provide the rest of our presentation, and then we can take the questions after that.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Oh.
And hi, everyone. Thank you for spending your lunch with us. I think, as Liz spoke, I think one of the things that she spoke about that we really want to highlight is that we recognize that children and youth and families, their status, their immigration status, or their settlement need can be really invisible in our system. I also think, though, sometimes our work can be really invisible in our system. And so hopefully after this, you feel really well versed in what we do to sort of help us put the word out on the importance of really making sure that all of these systems are responsive to the needs of families. And so I'll start with our data. And I think our data has been a really important part of this 5-year journey. So we just celebrated our 5th year at the 5th fiscal year at the close of March. We're currently in our 6th fiscal year. And I think when we think about sometimes data and child welfare agencies and transparency and accountability and how community or partners can access information, I think it's been a really important part of our development over the first 5 years. So I'd love to share some of that because I think it has provided quite a bit of insight, and there is no other data like this in Canada or in North America. So I think it makes it compelling. So in our first 5 years, and as I said, up till March of 2023, we received over 2,500 referrals for service. Some of that, most of that is across Ontario, but of course there's a percentage that is outside of Ontario as well, as Liz mentioned. We also have a really strong focus on building capacity, engaging in presentations and conversations with people about this specific intersection. We recognize that many of you maybe work in related fields, either health or settlement or immigration, and you may be seeing additional intersections. So we've really tried to engage as many people as possible and have spoken to and presented to over 6,700 in the first 5 years. And then in our 3rd year, so our 3rd, 4th, and 5th year, we were able to launch a training program specifically for child welfare professionals across Canada. And we have some more training that will be coming out to engage people outside of child welfare who are professionals working with maybe the same clients or families who have similar needs. But up until the end of last fiscal year until March, so in our first 3 years providing training, we had a total attendance of over 1,000, and we are providing training across 3 provinces. As of like 2 weeks ago, we've actually added a 4th province. So this is sort of a shout out to staff across Ontario and Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island who join this training. We've also launched a foster caregiver training course, which is available for foster parents or foster caregivers across Canada. And then every year we evaluate our services to understand more about what the needs are from the people who refer to us. And so last year we had a 98% of the people who refer to us would recommend CWICE to a colleague, which we think is really important to share. And some of the reasons why I think the data is really important because it helps us to understand not only about our services, what is the need for our services, and what's the feedback about our services, but also more about the specific identities. And I think this is often not shared. And so we really take a leadership role in sharing some of this data. So this is a snapshot. This is not from 5 years. This is from 1 year. So this is last year, the year that ended in March 2023. So last year we served over 900 individuals who had connections to 89 countries of origin across 6 continents. And last year was the first time we actually added that 6th continent, Oceania. Before that, our first 4 years, we had people who were connected to 5 continents. So 31% of our clients last year were connected to North America through 13 countries. 28% last year of our clients were connected to Asia through 22 countries of origin. 16% of our clients last year were from Europe and were connected to 18 countries. 13% of our clients last year were from Africa with connections to 25 countries. Almost 7%, just under 7% of our clients last year were connected to South America through 10 countries. And finally, Oceania had just not quite even a percent, just one country, one individual from one country in that part of the world. But we think that it's important for us to evaluate this every year. And one of the things that we can say very clearly is that we've known since year one, our clients have really distinct identities. And as service providers, it's really important for us to really understand that. So Liz started to mention a little bit about our service focus. And so I'm going to just go very briefly into these programs. And so when we look at the data from our unaccompanied and separated children project over the last 5 years, we can see how many total referrals we received. On average, in our first 4 years, it was about 50 children or youth a year. Last year, it was 122, which is, a more than doubling of referrals. And last year, about 17% of those were youth or children who were CWICE visa holders, so individuals from Ukraine. And so we can see how that impacted the overall numbers. We know that this is not a total incidence. We would never present it in that way. We would say that this is who we're aware of. And there's some missing data in terms of total incidence, okay? In terms of the citizenship project, in our first 5 years, we received 170 referrals to help children, youth, or young adults obtain citizenship in Canada. And so that is work that we do on an ongoing basis. We also play a role in really examining identity-based data. So we have an immigration status project that looks at the identity-based data for children and youth and young adults who are living in out-of-home care. So that could be with a foster provider, or it could be with a kin provider, or it could be living independently as a young adult, but they're still connected to PLCIS for support. We really promote for all of our child welfare counterparts the importance of making children visible in terms of their identities. So asking really good questions, verifying parts of identity like immigration status, and then really understanding if there's any outstanding need. And so we have seen since tracking this within one organization in Ontario that there's a move towards resolving individual unresolved immigration status needs. That being said, we really promote this not only across Ontario, but across Canada. And this is one way to help not only make children and youth more visible, but to ensure that there's accountability and that service providers are meeting the needs. And as Liz mentioned, there has been some shifts in Ontario this past summer with new regulations coming in. So agencies will be required to determine the immigration status of a child who is living in out-of-home care, so not with a parent, for example. At the same time, we promote that we think it's important for children with their families to also have a pathway, and so to resolve any outstanding needs that they may have. So that's one project. And then Liz mentioned that we work with Global Affairs about around repatriation. And so in 3 years, we've had just over 58 individuals repatriated, and that is from all around the world. So an example of that could be a child living abroad for a period of time. So a Canadian citizen child who's been living abroad for a time, and perhaps their parent has passed away and they need to come back to Canada to a next of kin here. There's many other types of situations that people may be in that are not related to a personal circumstance, but may be related to a situation happening in the country. Then that might make them need to return home. And then the last project that Liz mentioned, the settlement initiative, we have play a significant role in the GTA really to help coordinate the multiple mass migrations that are happening in Ontario. We know that Ontario sees, over 50% of the resettled refugees, but there are other distinct migration populations like the visa holders, the QIT visa holders, the asylum seekers, and there have been significant impacts in terms of coordinating services. So our role is really to be a leader within the child welfare sector, but we can't only focus on the child welfare sector and really need to look at a wider connection to many other sectors and service providers. So today, sort of 5 years or 6 years later, we now operate an international consultation center. We receive referrals from around the world, predominantly from inside Ontario, but see that those referrals from abroad are coming more and more. And it tells us that children are in need everywhere, right? And I think we know that, but we see that in our work. And we also provide services across Ontario. So that could be supporting someone towards citizenship. That could be helping someone renew a permanent residency card, so a child in foster care, for example. And it can be a variation of many different scenarios. As well, we have a responsibility to not only develop these best practices, but to share them, to really elevate that to, again, a wider scale and have a number of academic partners. I won't go into detail about each of these boxes, but happy to take any questions if anyone's interested. We do offer outreach presentations. We also have a webinar series that we run with the Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies for the member agencies or their partners who they wish to invite. And then Liz mentioned that we launched a training program. So we have a very robust 8-course certificate training series for child welfare staff. And that's the program that I mentioned that now 4 provinces are sending their child welfare staff to, which gives us a lot to celebrate in terms of the progress that we've made, the growth that we've made in the last 3.5 years. We've also added a foster caregiver course, and that those sessions are, I don't remember all the dates, but they're all available on our website. And then we will be launching, and more information will come this November or December, a new training course for other professionals outside of child welfare, so either in settlement or related professions, and that'll be beginning in January 2024. So we're really excited about that. We also play a role in bringing together provincial leaders in child welfare, but we've also brought together national child welfare leaders to talk about issues. We really want to promote equitable outcomes for youth. So for example, if a child is coming to the attention of a child welfare agency in Ontario, that they would have receive a similar service approach. The staff would feel confident and competent if they're responding in British Columbia, for example. And then lastly, our role has really evolved in the policy and legislation consultation and development side since about 2021. We've been asked to consult into not only CBSA policy changes affecting minors, but also to other provinces and our own province child welfare sector, so that this becomes more visible. Immigration status and settlement needs become more visible in the practice, in the day-to-day practice that's happening. In Ontario, currently the CWICE are legislation is going through a 5-year review, and so we've consulted in about that as well. And very recently, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I might be losing a week, Liz and I and a number of our CWICE colleagues had the opportunity to hold an event with Senator Jaffer. So Senator Jaffer from the Senate of Canada co-hosted 2 events with us in September to look at a bill that she's proposed in the Senate of Canada. And that bill is to amend IRPA, the Immigration Act, and the Citizenship Act to better support children who are in foster care to obtain citizenship, and also to stay the deportation of children who were in foster care earlier in their lives. And so we support that bill and are helping to move that through, and held 2 community consultations with subject matter experts and community groups to provide some feedback about the development of that bill and how it goes through the Senate. It's also being co-sponsored in the House, and so that it will be moving hopefully at the same time through both processes. When we talk about sort of emerging trends, I think the things that we really want to make visible, the theme of invisibility and making it visible, we have the power to make things visible. So the making things visible, there is multiple mass migrations that are happening, particularly in Ontario and the GTA and many other municipalities and agencies and regions in Canada will be seeing this. And so, we have partners. Liz and I sit at a table that meets near weekly to really coordinate across the GTA. And it's about 40 plus organizations that meet to coordinate all the different groups who are currently here needing service. And so that could be resettled GARs, that could be asylum seekers who have arrived just in the last, 6 weeks or 8 weeks. That could be folks that arrived through Roxham Road and came into the GTA as in a relocation effort. And it also could be other residents like international students, temporary residents, or folks that are on the CWICE visa. And so when we try to think about how to ensure there's coordinated service, that's where we see cross-sector partnerships are absolutely required. Liz said, our approach has always been, we can't do this work alone. We're very fortunate to be in Peel region where 1 in 2 people, so just over 51% of the population, was born outside of Canada. And so that means that the services that are provided there is quite a lot of collaboration and work across agencies. There's a lot of planning tables that we get to be a part of to ensure that we all have a really welcoming approach, and that we're also sharing resources and sharing information about what the needs are so that we can problem solve this together. One of the partners at that table, United Way, has even started fundraising campaigns and things like that so that we can help ensure that there is a plan or a pathway to even meet the needs that we're seeing. That leads us to, always approaching what are the training opportunities. Many of our settlement partners have expanded their service to provide more service to temporary residents in the last, 1 to 2 years, and we recognize that. And so our services have always been available for anyone. And so because we say that immigration status is invisible, it often has never mattered, right? In child welfare, if a child's in need of protection or a child's at risk, a child welfare staff will respond. And so because on the one hand, it's been invisible in our system, it means that we are used to providing service despite someone's immigration status, where we recognize that many other agencies may be limited in who they can provide service to because of immigration status. And so we also recognize that that is changing, and that's a great thing. That really led us into this project on unaccompanied and separated children with a partner, CWICE Toronto, when they as a settlement agency had never worked with unaccompanied and separated children, and they were getting asked about how to match and find hosts for some young people coming from Ukraine. And so they reached out to us to find out, what happens when a youth is separated. And so together, IRCC funded us to do a study, and we have made some recommendations for a national strategy to support unaccompanied and separated children. And that report, it's not that long, but it is on our website if you're interested to read more. And that was released earlier this year. So there's a few ways for you to stay sort of connected with our work, and again, to make our work maybe more visible in your work or yours and ours. Please stay connected to us. We have a number of articles on our website that helps to explain what we've been up to. We also have some publications, the report I just spoke about, as well as some annual reports and archived annual reports, which you may find interesting. We have an e-newsletter that goes to your inbox about once a month, so hopefully not too overwhelming. And if you wish to sign up, you can let us know in the chat today, I think, or you can just go to our website and scroll down to the bottom and fill it in there. And then you can, if you're interested in future training that will be launching before January, so we'll be announcing it before January, you can always check out our website. If you're thinking of a family or a child and you want to talk to us about them, even if you don't have consent, but you feel like you just want to talk in a with non-identifying information, you can certainly email us, call us, or connect us through our inquiry form on our website. The caveat I would say is PLCAS is certainly a 24 hours, 7 days a week operation. CWICE is mostly 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And so if, for example, you were dealing with anything really urgent, I would just ask that you call that number and not press the extension, and just press 0 to speak to someone. If you felt like something could wait, or you're calling during business hours, then certainly you'll connect to one of us using this contact information in front of you. The last thing that I'll mention before we get into any questions or dialogue is that in Ontario, October 27th is Dress Purple Day. And it's really meant to be a day to raise awareness of child abuse and neglect and the work of these organizations across Ontario, but more specifically to show children that we're there as adults and as peers to support them. And if they're in need or feel unsafe, that they have a safe person that they can go to. And so there's many ways to sort of get involved as individuals or as an organization or a team. So on October 27th, you could dress purple, take a photo, and share it on social media at PLCAS. So they're on all the sort of major platforms. You could do that ahead of time. You don't have to wait till the 27th. So I think we try to promote events throughout the month of October to really raise awareness. So just encouraging you to stay connected to us. We'd always love to hear about what you're working on and look for ways to partner and collaborate with you. So hopefully you do reach out to us. And we just want to thank you for the time today. And hopefully you have some questions and we can have a bit of a dialogue.
Thank you so much, Danielle and Liz, for that very informative presentation. And we do have quite a few attendees with us today, and they have some questions coming in. So we'll jump into those and get started. So I have a question related to services in Calgary, Alberta, just asking about a branch there and how they can get additional information. And also, what is your relationship with child services?
Do you want to start, Liz?
Yeah, I can start. So I guess the work that we do, when people hear that, they wonder how a child welfare organization is doing this work. So we are from PL Children's Aid. So we are child protection workers, so child welfare staff. So we all have degrees in social services, and we're doing child welfare. And actually, many of us, maybe almost all of us in the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence are registered social workers. And so we are child protection workers. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we had to build capacity and expertise to be able to do this work because we have the Pearson International Airport right in our jurisdiction. And so we've been doing this work for over 20 years. And so then we wanted, like Danielle mentioned, that all children should benefit from this service instead of PLCAS having this great service because we've built the capacity and other child welfare agencies didn't have. We actually opened up with a mandate from our umbrella organization, which is the OACAS, Ontario Child Welfare, Association Services, Ontario. Yes, the OACAS. So we are all under that umbrella, the 50 agencies that I mentioned. And so, yes, we are child protection workers, all of us, and then we have the additional expertise in that immigration piece. And so that's where we look and work within that intersection. That's what the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence are. Danielle, you may want to add a little to this.
I would love to have a branch in Calgary or Alberta. So like I picked up on that and I think I got stuck on that. That would be a great goal. I don't know when that would be possible or how that would be possible, but maybe you can talk to us offline. We totally invite you to connect with us. One of the things that we spend a lot of time doing, as Liz said, is just building relationships between different partners. So we may have some contacts in Alberta and maybe are able to make some connections or introductions and hope that there can be some collaboration locally in the regions that you're in. So we believe that helps the families that we serve. It does help professionals too, to be honest, but it's, we're really focused on the outcomes that families receive more seamless service and they feel better supported.
Thank you so much, Danielle. And I think this question kind of relates. Are you aware of any other organizations doing similar work to what you're doing in other provinces? Obviously, it sounds like there's a need. And you had mentioned that you have been using or they have been using your certificate program. So are there any organizations that you sort of reach out to regularly to share resources and tools?
You want to start? Okay, so yes, we do, like Danielle said, they are reaching out in terms of the training, because that's what they have access to right now. But I was just coming out of a consultation with a case from BC. So they are reaching out to us as we do this work like this webinar and other things. Our name is reaching out and they're realizing that, oh, wow, nobody's here to do this work and we're not turning anyone back. And that's why we are becoming a national service, actually. And so, yes, we do get consultations from other provinces. And we don't turn them back. We might refer them to other places within their own organizations, within their own jurisdictions there, but we can consult on a case and figure things out together.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that information. Our next question is, what are the most common issues you see regarding children welfare within immigration? So what are some common recurring issues?
Do you want to start maybe? And
you can
just
take,
need
okay.
a moment to think.
Yes. So common issues that we find, well, there are lots of issues. And so if you're talking about the intersection that we work, I'm going to look at that with that focus, because even when you talk about neglect so we look at a case like a neglect case where, not enough food is put on the table, or a child goes hungry, or they go to school in inappropriate clothing due to it's not appropriate to the weather and all that. From us, the Child Welfare Immigration Center of Excellence, our assessment is holistic, right? So we get all these cases that you get, physical abuse, sexual abuse, settlement challenges, meaning they might not know the system well, or they might not know where to go for services. Families may be here and they may have their status. They may have their permanent residency in their hands, but they came only a few months ago or a couple of years ago, and language barriers, right? We're looking at intimate partner violence. We'll look, and we make our assessments, or we complete our assessments looking at that intersection. What is their migration history or stories that are impacting? Is there trauma, for example? What did they go through on their way to get here? Look what happened in Syria. Look what happened in Afghanistan. People had to flee. They left family members behind, and they come here, and we don't expect them to be all, upright and knowing everything. Our laws are different. The system can be overwhelming to navigate. Then there could be that language piece as well. So what we're saying is, and Danielle will provide, I don't know if we didn't mention the best practices, but when people come to our attention, we're looking at them holistically. What is it in their lives that could be impacting, that neglect piece that somebody has reported, right? So we have the option of taking a look and saying, this is not an investigation where we're gonna, be very, strict in our investigation guidelines. We can just see that because of lack of immigration status, they're not able to access this service and that service, or because they don't know how to navigate the system, they don't know where to go and ask for help. So we see all the child protection or child welfare issues that you see as well. However, we are taking this lens in assessing our families, our children, youth, and families, and really honing on what are the needs, what are the underlying, the underlying factors that might lead a family down a certain path. Healthcare. If they're underground and their status is precarious, they can't just get up and go to the next walking clinic, right? There are clinics that may see them, but they have to know where to go until they get their status regularized. There are only a few places, but who knows to tell them? They may not know. And so the school might be calling and saying, this child has been complaining of a toothache forever and nobody's doing anything. You may go and do your huge investigation and say the child is unsafe. But once you go and you're careful and thoughtful with your assessment, you may realize that they don't know where to go, or they can't access these resources that we can easily. And so then what do you do as a staff or a worker or a child welfare professional? You advocate, you look for places for mom to take the child and resolve that issue, and then say, if you're here and you don't have status, how can we help you? This is what CWICE does. Yes, and we are not immigration, but we have the pathways that we can lead you to getting there. Yeah.
Providing that such important support and guidance. Thank you, Liz, for that. The next
Danielle,
question. Yes, of course, Danielle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you covered a lot there. I think the way that I was thinking about that question is that what we actually promote is that the needs of individuals is actually usually quite unique. And so we really promote spending time to get to know the identity and the needs of each individual, and never to make assumptions in our practice around, let's say, a family unit is here for a service, that everyone in the family has the same specific settlement need, for example, or is experiencing the same need at the same time. So I think a lot of what I would say is that there is no one specific overwhelming need, but there are really distinct needs. And I think a lot of the work is about the nuance and really bringing things to the surface rather than just sort of skimming over the top, which is part of the presentation, really trying to unveil the invisible, right? So just spending a bit more time to build that rapport, to build that alliance with clients.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Danielle, for those additional comments. The next question is wondering how vulnerable are children to the risk of
Do
exploitation or trafficking?
you want me to start, Liz, and then you can add
go
in?
ahead.
Children are very vulnerable. When we talk about, if you spend time reading the Unaccompanied and Separated Children report, you will see in there that we talk about why children are vulnerable. Children are vulnerable not only because of their developmental stage, but also, because they are dependent on adults for not only physical care and all of those other needs, but also for protection. And so if you're talking specifically about unaccompanied and separated children, for example, their vulnerability increases when they're no longer with their parent or the person who was protecting them either most of their life or all of their life. And so this can place an increased vulnerability. And so when we think about, what we believe about a 17-year-old, well, we can't apply the lens. We have to look at, what do we know about 17-year-olds, and then what does the 17-year-old in front of me need, right? And it can be very different than another 17-year-old. And so when we talk about unaccompanied and separated children, for example, the point that we raise in the report is that they have distinct identities. And in our experience, you can work with one 17-year-old for a month and it's kind of set on a path and have supports and they have a really good plan and they're really well equipped to independent living, for example. And then you can work with another 17-year-old who feels absolutely scared, has no sort of plan in place, does not know what the next 6 months are going to look like. And there's a lot of questions, and they probably do need a lot of support. And so, what we see when we talk about that group is that there is a lot of youth who we may see with intersecting immigration or settlement needs who do consent to service. So Liz spoke at the beginning about 16 and 17-year-olds needing to consent. Well, we see that many times clients are consenting because they in fact feel that they need that kind of support. Did you want to add anything, Liz?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in terms of the sex trafficking, the vulnerability, with all that Danielle said, if there's a youth who, especially the family connections, the need to belong is there, and they are here, we said unaccompanied or separated, right? Something may have happened and they are separated or they came alone. So that need to be to belong, and that vulnerability of not having an adult oversight, and not to say that children within families cannot get involved in sex trafficking, but if you look at the need, it starts emotionally. And so these children especially that we see are very vulnerable. They don't have that parental oversight if they're not connected to us or to any organization for someone to really oversee their plans and their day-to-day well-being. And so those are pieces that can make them easily a prey, to sex trafficking and things like that.
Thank you both for touching on that very sensitive topic. We do have additional questions, but I think we've run out of time for today. But to our audience, we will be taking those offline, and Danielle and Liz will be able to provide some answers after our webinar. I do want to thank you both for the presentation today, and I'll just pop up a couple of closing slides, and then I'll give you a moment to sign off. So thank you both, and I'll just pop this up on the screen to do our closing. Perfect. Okay. So N4 recently launched the checklist for recruiting, integrating, and retaining IEHPs. This download checklist was created with healthcare employers across Canada and can be used by all within the healthcare sector to create a workplace which welcomes and ensures a sense of belonging for IEHPs. Andrew will share that checklist link in the chat, or we'll share that with you following our webinar. Please feel free to share and check out the checklist and share it with your networks. On the screen are just a few of our upcoming webinars, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again. If you missed any part of today's presentation and you'd like to watch it, we will have a recording available for you, and we look forward to sharing any additional resources with you following the webinar. Today's after we leave today, a survey will pop up related to our webinar. We ask that you do complete it. Very important for us to gather this information on you, our audience. We also have the N4 mobile app. Check it out on N4 mobile app through our QR code that's on the screen, or going to newcomernavigation.ca/iOS for Android. Thank you again, and we hope you'll join us for future webinars. I send a big thank you out to Liz and Danielle, and please, Liz, Danielle, if there are any other words of wisdom to share with our audience, you're welcome to do so now.
Just want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you, Colleen, Andrew, and Michelle. Really appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are honored and feel privileged to be a member of N4. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Danielle. We'll see everyone at our next webinar.
Okay.